No, that's a good question.
I was just curious.
That's a good question. Oh. So did something come?
Not yet. Oh, it may have, no.
It might be slow just because this office doesn't have the best reception for one thing.
Oh yeah. Name with the best carrier. I do have service,
but when it comes to your email,
I
put two.
They're separate, right?
Well, I put one is called a PDF file, which means that it can't be moved around. It's stuck in one format.
Right.
And then I also put it in a Word document, which says you can go in there and move it around. Things on the page.
I should know about that. I get what you're saying vaguely. But...
Okay. Well, I mean, it's good that you two have some communication. That's a good thing. I
don't tell her, but that's my freaking world. Don't tell her no more. Just don't tell her.
I believe it. Because your heart, I hear your heart is big and it got broken into billions of pieces. And so you had to put up a wall to sort of protect.
But I've always done that, and I just never had to do that to her. I didn't want to have to be like that.
Especially if you've been friends since elementary. I hate that for her and for you.
Yeah, she just says it's sad. Yes, you can have crush on this instead of elementary school. And I tried, some people just don't live like me. She wasn't raised up like me. But that's why she likes me. I say, in order to be with me, you can't be. A lot of stuff to go along with it. So you can't be like everybody else. And you want to go to the club and hang out and be out there and stuff, and I'm not the person you want to be with. I'm not going to be with you. I don't do that type of stuff. She's still there for me. She's always there for me. I love her and she loves me. We just at a point in life, a certain point in our relationship. And when you were talking about some people make 50 and don't get mature, it just hit me one day. I was in my 20s, 25. I remember the day. I can't remember the day. It just hit me. I woke up one day and I stopped ever since. Learn my lesson about trying to work day and night.
I'm working on that lesson.
Oh no, I just crashed the car. Sleep at the light, and wake up and try to drive off. Don't even know what happened. It's weird having to explain to a state trooper that you worked nonstop for the last 4 days. Literally, you worked 12 hours in one place and put in 10 others at the other, and the 2 hours that you weren't working, you were getting food driving to the other place. Usually they get it, but it's just weird having to explain that. That was a weird situation. But at first, just are you drunk? You're drunk, aren't you? type of health, heart attack or something. In my field, it's common. I mean, a lot of guys my age. That have crashed vehicles working. That's the type of connections that I feel. It's guys like me work all the time. If I can get another steady job, I'll go back to mowing yards again. It's just hard to schedule anything when you don't know what you're going to be doing next week and next month. I like doing that because it's under the table money. And all these jobs with these staffing agencies, I'm reading these, I'm signing this paperwork for these jobs and doing the drug tests and everything. I'm reading it. And mandatory overtime, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's hard to do anything else when they got a clause in the contract like that.
So you would do something like this, and I'm gonna also send you an example. But in the first paragraph, I'm submitting this application and resume because of my interest in your whatever the position is. I have experience as in my work ethics. So that first paragraph is has to do with why you are qualified for the job. Okay.
All right.
And then the second paragraph would explain a little bit. I need to be honest with you. There was a time in my life when I made some unwise decisions that brought me in relationship with the criminal justice system. The background may cause you concern, but please let me share briefly my journey. I grew up in between cultures. There have been, significant losses in my life. You don't have to go into a whole bunch of detail. Just keep it, simple. These are not excuses, but contributing factors that I've had time to process, heal, and recover. You might still be on that journey, but that's enough for them to let them know. And then, I've learned what have you learned from this? I've matured.
Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. And I just wanted to make sure I'm only showing Vanessa and Amelia on the call, but I'm hearing a gentleman's voice in the background. So is there somebody else on the phone with us?
That's your voice. So then the third paragraph, I'm see if I can link this.
Okay, I have 2 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Hopefully some other folks will join us. So just to go through and do some brief introductions. I'm Tammy Keyser, the Assistant Health Director at Macon County Public Health, and I will be facilitating this meeting. So who wants to jump in and introduce themselves next?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Justin,
Hello.
do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Justin Wright. I'm with the Felony Drug Diversion Program of Buncombe County, and I'm a peer support Sunrise Community for Recovery and Wellness.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Welcome. Vanessa?
Yes, this is Vanessa James with the North Carolina Department of Commerce Reentry Program.
Amelia?
Okay, have you ever heard of this program, this business before?
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in that?
Hi, everyone. I just checking in to make sure everybody was able to get on. I see you, Tammy. Thank you so much for responding.
Hey, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we've got some folks who don't have audio and some challenges in adjusting the volume levels.
Yeah, tell them to check the audio, their computer's audio, as well as in the lower, when you start moving your cursor around on the screen, the lower corner, you'll see where it says mute on the far left side. Make sure that's unmuted. But very often it's their computer that the audio is not working. So you need to make sure the volume's up on that. And I've even got some people that have to call in on their phone while looking at you on their computer because for whatever reason they can't get the audio to work on their computer. So that is something that occurs from time to time. So I see Amelia Thompson's got hers muted, for instance.
Right, and she said she didn't have any audio, so she's typing responses. We just did brief introductions, so
Okay.
she's able to hear us, but she's not able to talk to us.
Okay, well, she's muted, so she needs to unmute her mic. That will probably help. I can see it from my screen here that she's muted. So Amelia, if you can hear me, if you'll move your cursor around, you'll see in the left-hand corner of the Zoom meeting screen, there's a little mic down in the corner, and it says mute. Click on that, it should unmute.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see the chat box, Deborah, but she's typed in that she's trying to unmute, but it isn't
Hers
working.
isn't working. I see that, yeah. Well, Amelia, if you get tired of typing, you could also try dialing in with the dial-in number, and then we could hear you at that point. Justin, are you able to, you're on a phone and you've got your phone muted. I see that. Okay. And it's a good idea for people to be muted until you get ready to speak, you know, with the exception of your leader, obviously, just so you don't have a lot of background noise. But those are things we run into, and it's usually it's related to the computer. In Amelia's situation, I'm not sure what's going on there, that she's unable to mute that mic. That's weird. And I know it's got to be frustrating. But anyway, like I said, we do have the chat piece of it. And also, there's 2 dial-in numbers. Does it say, there's one for New York / Canada, and then the meeting number is, I think starts with 515 or whatever, Amelia? She was chatting about that. I think one is a one-touch dial and the other one is an actual dial-in number, which is the one I use. It's simpler to me, and I have an iPhone too. Amelia to everyone, 645. Let me check and see what it is. Hang on one second, Amelia. I've got the screen up behind me. I'm going to minimize this. And Tammy, if you want to go ahead and get on with what you've got going on while we try to unmute Amelia for the rest of the group.
Okay, we'll go ahead. So I don't know if folks are watching the chat box or not, but Amelia had responded that she's the executive director at the Clean Slate Coalition. So we welcome Amelia. And I see that Alan has joined us. So Alan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you.
Alan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm just Alan Foyle's case manager, first at Blue Ridge. Sorry I'm late.
That's fine. No problem. Thank you. And Vanessa, did you introduce yourself?
I did.
Okay.
I'm multitasking, however.
Okay. So I think that's gotten everybody who's on the call. So I want to make sure that everybody got the agenda that I emailed out, and it had an attachment about the sequential intercept model. Is there anybody who didn't get that? Okay. So in looking at the agenda, and before we look at the agenda, actually, Vanessa, due to responsibilities and things on her plate, had to request that somebody else facilitate the group. So I agreed to do that. If there's anybody else who really wants to do that, I'll be glad to pass the gavel and let you do that. And I was the scribe, so if I'm gonna, if nobody wants to step up to the facilitator role, then we will need a future scribe. So I have somebody today from my office who's agreed to take notes from today's meeting, but I put that out there. If there's anybody who wants to be the facilitator or who is willing to be the scribe, to please let me know. So is there anybody who's just chomping at the bit to do either one of those roles at the moment? No. Okay. All right. Tom, I see that you joined us. Do you want to introduce yourself?
That's me. That's me. I'm sorry, Tammy. Yeah, I sign in on his account. That's the only reason. I'm going to hop off here in a second.
Okay.
So, now that most of you guys are on, and I told Amelia that is the correct number, so I'll let you guys get on with everything, okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Okay. So in looking at our agenda, the first thing I think was to review kind of our project and goal. So our goal was to engage interested county stakeholders in the sequential intercept mapping process. And so we had called our project the Western North Carolina Sequential Intercept Mapping, or SIM for short, initiative. And what we had said success looked like for us was having a document, a map, so to speak, that identifies resources and gaps for pre-arrest, diversion, and reentry interventions for all 7 counties. Does that sound familiar and accurate to everybody?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I don't know if you all have checked back at the shared document or not. If you don't have that link and remember how to access that, I can send that back out again after our meeting. So I'm looking at my other computer screen to read from that document that's out there on the Google shared drive that they set up for us. So that is there at any time that anybody wants to go back and look at that or reference materials there. So from that last meeting that we had, one of the takeaways from that was for us to try to be working on orientation and training about the SIMS program. And Shelley Foreman with VIA is the expert on that. Unfortunately, Shelley couldn't join us today because she had a commissioners meeting that she had to attend. A couple of the other options that we threw out for meeting times didn't work for her either. So in the interest of trying to have a meeting in September, as we were encouraged to do, we went ahead and scheduled it for today to move forward to just talk about some things in general. But Shelley is still willing to do that training for us and to move forward with that. So I know she sent out a couple of emails today as well. So did everybody receive those?
Oh, vegetarian.
Yep.
Okay. All right, good. So part of that also was to try to identify the stakeholders from each county that we wanted to be involved in that training. And at the previous meeting, we had identified positions like district attorneys, program leaders, particularly from diversion programs, health departments, law enforcement, and county officials. So I know that there have been some of our team members that have been putting together lists for their counties and for other counties. So I have Macon counties, and Amelia did a really good job. Appreciate that, Amelia, of putting together some information for all counties that included their county commissioners, state representatives, and other key stakeholders that, and was for all 7 Western counties, I believe. So at this point, I guess, is just trying to, if we can identify roles from each county, I guess, to just confirm if our who we want on that list to attend that orientation meeting would be one of the things that we could do. So what I have on the list, and I'll read it again, and then if you guys will just tell me if there's a position that we want to add or take off. So I have county managers, sheriffs, somebody from probation and parole, the chair of the county commissioners, superintendent, service providers, and I'm assuming that that includes substance abuse as well as mental health. If there's any other service providers we want to make sure we include, we need to identify those. The district attorney, health department, social services, and juvenile justice. So who do we need to add or take off of that list? Okay, so Justin is saying housing service providers, law enforcement. So we have the sheriff on there. So I guess the police chief, maybe, peer support services, and we had the district attorney on there. Any other thoughts or suggestions about who to add or take off? Okay, private attorneys. We don't have private attorneys on there, so we could add those. Okay, anybody think of anybody else? Okay, so Justin, I guess Justin is muted, so he's typing if you guys are following that. So the question is, what about, is he asking for us to take those off or add those? And he's saying add, not subtract. Okay, and children's services. So we had social services on there. Is there something else with children's services that's more specific that you were thinking, Justin?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, so I just posted in the email string a list of the people who jumped on the Sims thing for Buncombe County as a easy template. I know Shelley has a document that allows for planning for all of the different people that need to be at the table, and that will probably be a more extensive list that we can compare to. But in the meantime, until we get that from her, that's why I posted it in the email string. You can see what Buncombe County's done and just maybe compare that list to what we already have in case we're missing anything.
Right. And Justin, did you, I'm assuming that you attended the Buncombe County one?
Say that one more time.
I'm assuming that you attended the Buncombe County session?
I haven't sent the full, I haven't sent the full thing out. I have that and I'm happy to do that.
But no, did you attend that?
Oh, attend.
Yeah.
I attended for part of it. Our Sunrise community was there for the whole time though. And so I wasn't there for the whole time of the day and a half process.
Okay. About how many people did they have at the table?
Probably, I don't know, 75 to 100, I would say. It was a lot.
Okay, because I know that's one of the things that Shelley had tried to touch base with me about as to how big to make the group or not. So just as a reference point for that. Okay. Anybody else have folks that they think we should add to our list?
Alan mentioned public defenders.
Okay. All right. Others? Anybody? So I'm sure that the each county is going to be different in what they have as far as services and as to who they see needs to be at the table. So I think that this gives us a good starting point for who to have at the tables. And Amelia did provide that list that is for all the Western counties. On the service provider piece, are there service providers? We have behavioral health, mental health, substance use, and housing providers on there. Are there other providers of service that we need to think about and make sure that we have at the table?
I think it would be good to have transportation services. That's something that came up in our meeting that is a huge problem sometimes. So to have transportation at the table to find where to fill the gaps would be pretty important in my opinion.
Okay. What about the harm reduction folks, the syringe exchange folks? I know that that varies by county.
I think the more the merrier.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially when you look at the model that an individual could drop out at any point, and harm reduction really is at every stage in that process.
Okay. And Amelia asked, so for those of you who might have joined later, Amelia doesn't have speaker capability, so she's having to type all of her stuff for us. And so she did include Full Circle Recovery on that list that she sent. So, but she was asking, Amelia, are you asking about the list that Justin sent about Buncombe County? Because he emailed that out earlier today. I think, was it today, Justin, that you sent that out?
Yeah, it was just attached to the email string that we've been a part of, and it was just a screenshot.
Right. Okay. I know in one of the emails that Shelley sent earlier today, there was also the piece about counties that had gotten on board with the Stepping Up program, and I had asked her to clarify which counties that was so that we knew that. And Justin, I think you provided that list as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, I just went to their website and they had a list of all North Carolina counties that had signed the resolution, and I highlighted the ones that I was familiar with in Western North Carolina. So again, that's a part of the email string. So if I missed one, you can check it.
Okay. So I'll make sure I'll send those out again. I'll forward those to you just to make sure that everybody gets those a second time. And I really appreciate you doing that, Justin. As far as the next steps, I think that we need to schedule a time that Shelley can be with us so that she can walk through our group with the intercept model or the sequential intercept model so that we all understand it, because I'm as much as I've tried to read the material that she sent out and understand it, there's still lots of questions. So I certainly by no means feel like that I'm an expert or even knowledgeable enough to try to explain that. So I've shared that with you all. If you all will make sure that you look at that, and we'll try to get our next meeting scheduled so that Shelley can join us. But one of the pieces that was important for that, and without understanding the correlation of the importance, was counties that had signed on and adopted the Stepping Up resolution. And so I don't know how many folks are familiar with the Stepping Up program. I know that my county, Macon County, has signed on to that and has had a lot of discussion about that. And then Justin sent that list out to us by email, so we know which counties. So Haywood, Macon, Graham, Transylvania are all Western counties that are on that. So does anybody feel like that they have enough knowledge about either the Stepping Up program or the sequential intercept model that you want to take a shot at sharing with the group so that we all have a little bit more knowledge about what those two programs are? No? Okay. So I think that all of us want to learn more about those two before we move forward. So unless you all disagree, I think the next step is to have the meeting where Shelley can explain those processes to us. And then it was my understanding from there that we needed to start introducing and doing the training for the SIMS model with a county that had already adopted the Stepping Up program. And again, I don't know the correlation there. I'm just going based on what information Shelley had provided and shared. So if we go that route, it looks like that either Haywood, Macon, Transylvania, or Graham would be where we start with the training pieces. And it might be that we could come together and do a regional training and invite everybody to come to the table. Are there any thoughts about that based on what we know as to whether it should be limited to county specific or whether a regional training might be more palatable?
Maybe we'll be able to answer that question once Shelley is a part of the group and we understand the model better.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay, so it looks like, Vanessa, that Justin and Amelia are agreeing with you as well. So does everybody have their calendar with them where we could look at possibilities for next meeting dates? And I can then try to coordinate with Shelley and see if any of those dates work for her, or did the doodle poll work and you guys want to try that again?
The doodle poll works. I would say the doodle poll works.
Okay. All right. So I see 2 folks have said doodle poll. So we'll try for that. I know that Deborah wants us to continue to do the Zoom meetings. So I'll coordinate with her once we get a date set as well to do the next Zoom meeting. And we're recording all of those. So once that's done, for anybody that didn't join us today, we'll be able to send out the links so they can listen to what we talked about today. And it's my understanding that Deborah is putting together the transcript as well. So I haven't done this before with the model that we're using. If there's anybody on the call who has and is willing to share your knowledge, it would be great. But one of the questions that I had reached out to Deborah earlier about was there a specific format that our agenda needed to be in, or the notes that our scribe was taking? Because on that template that we started the summit with, there's actually no place on there to put notes from our follow-up meetings. And she said they were working on that piece. So that, from what I understand, it is kind of what we've done today. And Amelia's asking if I can send the recording to everyone. And so, yes, I'll send it out to everybody. And we'll make sure everybody's got it. Other thoughts of things that we should cover today, or that we should make sure that we get on the agenda for the next meeting? No? Okay, well, that being said, I guess we can jump off. I appreciate everybody being here today, for your patience and for your willingness to continue moving forward with this project. And if there's any thoughts or questions, please reach out to me. Email is fine. And again, if somebody wants to be in the facilitator or the scribe role, then please let me know that as well.
Thank you. This is Vanessa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for stepping up.
No problem. All right, if nothing else, then thank you guys. Appreciate your time, and I'll send out the doodle poll for next meeting.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Everyone have a good week.
Bye-bye.